It is Wednesday, May 1st. Happy May. It's going to be May. Everybody, I am Matt Modi, and the Splash Zone is back in your life with 4 NBA player props for tonight's NBA betting slates. We have 2 games on tap for tonight. I'm going to have 2 picks for each game, 1 pick on each team. Perfect symmetry. Of course, before I can give you today's picks, we got to do a recap from yesterday, which was finally a good day. I'm not going to write home and brag about a 2-1 plus 1 unit day of profit, but after the previous 4 days that we had, it was nice to have a day in the green yesterday. So on the 3 picks, I give out 2 of those 3 cashed plus 1 unit yesterday. We lost Dante DiVincenzo over 2.5 made 3-pointers, but we did cash out Donovan Mitchell over 24.5 points, and we cashed out Miles Turner under 20.5 points. So it was nice to have a day in the green. That now brings our total profit on the entire season. We are up about 107 units of profit. And then if you look at the playoffs specifically, we are admittedly down slightly on the entire playoffs. That 4-day stretch really took a dent into our profits as we were pretty nicely in the green prior to that. But the 4-day stretch counts just as much as the hot days. So we can only track what we have. Hopefully last night catapults us into having more success in the playoffs after this brutal stretch. Since Saturday, 5 players that we had that did not cash for us cashed the next game. A separate 5 times, which is crazy. That shows me that sometimes, the reads overall aren't terrible. They're just not coming through in the individual game. Like I had Maxey over his points on Sunday's game for game 4. Didn't cash. He blew up last night. I had Derek White over 2.5 made 3-pointers on Saturday's game. That did not cash. On Sunday, he made like 7. The same thing happened with Kevin Durant, with Patrick Beverly. All this time, this has happened. So hopefully it means that the looks aren't terrible. This is happening on the wrong game. We'll have to see moving forward if that ends up being the case. Regardless, was nice to have a green day yesterday. Nice to be 107 units of profit over the entire season regardless. And then the last thing I'll say before I get into today's picks is that I do have a dub club where I send everything out. Everything that I play on YouTube, on Twitter, those are the plays that I give out on dub club. But it's only $5 a month and it gets you all the plays early. The logic being sometimes by the time I record a video, edit the video, and then post it to YouTube, the odds change. So I came out with the Dub Club as a way to combat that, where as soon as I decide what a play is, the first thing I do is it goes out on Dub Club. So you're able to lock plays in before the lines change. And then also a reminder that I will be out of town today will be the last video until Sunday. I'm out of town starting today, flying back east for a wedding. So next video will be on Monday, so just a heads up there. Enough of that, way too long of a preamble. Let's get into today's bangers. First up, we're going Mavs versus Clippers, and I'm taking James Harden under 22.5 points, minus 125 odds at ESPN Bet. I got burned by fading James Harden on Sunday's game. Let's hope this is one of those situations where the player cashes the play the next game. Granted, I faded his 3-pointers on Sunday. As for today, I'm just going with his under points. Again, there have been 5 examples of players hitting their props the game after I bet them, and I really do like fading James Harden in this spot after a really, really impressive, incredible blow-up game in Game 4. So let's hope that the logic is the same with players hitting their props the day after, as I mentioned. In that game, Game 4, he scored 33 points, 4 of 5 from deep, 12 of 17 from the field. I see that. I see late career James Harden, who has not shown the ability to consistently put up these types of scoring outputs, and I immediately want to fade those results. Now, I will admit, James Harden has been far more consistent in these playoffs than he was any playoff run when he was a member of the 76ers last year. But even then, even when you consider the fact that he's played better in these playoffs, he's still only gone over this number in 2 of 4 games. Now, one game he scored exactly 22, so that would have hooked us with the W, but that's still an under. And in Game 1, he scored 28 points, had a great game. Another outlier shooting performance, made 6 3-pointers in that game, and then he immediately went under in 2 straight games. Then he had a blow-up game in Game 4. Shows me that, or to me, that I want to fade those results. And I understand that the playoffs are a different animal. I get that. You play harder, you play more minutes. But if you look at the regular season, James Harden only scored more than 22.5 points in 16 of 76 games. He did it in 16 of 76 games. And only once did he have a stretch where he did it 3 times in 5 games. That is what we are asking him to do in this stretch. 3 times in 5 games. He literally did that 1 time in the regular season. And I get it, right? It's the playoffs. That's the argument you're going to make. I totally understand that. But even star players have had inconsistent playoffs. And the unders have been hitting far more in these playoffs than the overs. And a lot of these unders feel gross because I like to target them after outlier performances. But the logic kind of makes sense. In the last 2 unders that I played, at least those have both cashed, right? Like I faded D'Lo on Monday after a really good game 4, I guess that was. In game 5, he went under. I did the same thing last night with Miles Turner. He had 2 outlier shooting performances in a row. I faded him. I think he scored 13 or 15 points last night, cashing both of those unders. Part of my strategy for trying to combat the crazy cold spell that we had, that 4-day stretch, was playing more unders. I kind of got in the habit in the regular season, especially towards the end of the regular season, of really only looking at overs. That's not the smart thing to do, especially in the playoffs when defense is ratcheted up. The refs don't call the game nearly as tight, or I guess they don't call nearly as many fouls, I should say. And specifically for James Harden, not like his scoring, he's not been one of those performers that gets it up in the playoffs. That has not been the MO for him. If you include last year, which I get, different season, different team, but if you're just looking at the last 2 seasons of playoff games that James Harden has played, he's only gone over 22 points in 5 of 15 total playoff games, and not once did he do it in 2 straight games. Now, I did admit this year he has scored 20 points in all 4 games, which he did not do in back-to-back games last year. So his consistency is better this year than last year. I will grant you that. But even with that inconsistency, again, he's only gone over this number in games 1 and 4. And after 33 points last game, I'm ready to fade him. Let's hope James Harden comes through for us by not coming through with a bunch of points. Next up, same game. I'm just doing both of them in the Mavs-Clippers game first. Luka Doncic over 32.5 points, -120 odds at Fanatics. Ultimate fade of recent results here. I will admit, I've been surprised at how poorly Luka has shot in these playoffs. And it's been a 4-game sample at this point. Like I thought, okay, after 2 bad games, he's going to shoot better. But here are his field goal attempts and his made shots, his shooting splits over the last 4 games in this playoff series. Game 1, 11 of 26. Game 2, he mirrored that, also went 11 of 26. Then he went 7 of 25, and last game he was 10 of 24. It's kind of interesting because heading into the series, you thought, okay, Luka's going to blow up. That's obvious. What else is going to happen for the Mavericks to be able to win? And the series is tied 2-2, but we haven't seen these blow-up performances from Luka. He's been very, very inefficient. And that includes from 3-point range as well. Here are his 3-point shooting splits in these 4 games as well. 4 of 12, 5 of 14, 3 of 14, 1 of 9. It's just crazy outlier poor shooting from Luka. And I'm betting on him to break out of that slump tonight and have a good game tonight as well. I was on Donovan Mitchell last night, partly because of what he said after the game. I do think that with these star players, you do kind of have to look at what they say. And after the Cavs lost game 4, Donovan Mitchell came out and said it's unacceptable how infrequently he was shooting, especially in the second half, that he needed to be more aggressive. And he came out and went over, I think he scored 28 points last night, scoring majority of them in the second half of the game as well. Well, after last game for the Mavericks, after game 4, in which they lost to the Clippers, obviously against the Clippers, a game in which Luka scored 29 points on another bad shooting game, a game in which Kyrie Irving had one of the most majestic performances I've ever seen. Luka came out and he said that he feels bad. He feels that he's letting Kyrie down with how bad he's playing and that he's got to pick it up. I know that he's playing with an injury, so maybe he's more hurt than they are letting on. But when I see Kyrie Irving talk about how poorly he played, how he feels bad for Luka, I will bet on Luka Doncic to be able to back up that type of talk. And even with how bad he has been shooting, in the 4 games, he scored 33, 32, 22, and 29 points. So twice he's gotten over 30 points. Once he's cashed over 32.5. Once he hooked 32.5, which I was on. That sucked. And another game where he scored 29 points, was 2 buckets away from cashing this over for us. And then one legitimately bad game with 22 points. So 3 of 4 have been decent. 1 of 4 he went over. 1 of 4 was bad. But the whole point I was trying to make with those stats is even with how bad Luka has been shooting, he's still putting up a decent amount of points. So if he even has an average shooting game, he soars over 32.5 points. If he has a good shooting game, he's going to score like 50. We don't need that. We just need 33. Pretty confident he's going to be able to get there as our second play. Next up, third pick, Heat Celtics. Jaylen Brown over 6.5 first quarter points, minus 102 odds at DraftKings. So with Kristaps Porzingis out, I immediately knew that I wanted to go to one of the first quarter kings in this spot. That would obviously be Jaylen Brown. Now you're going to look at Jaylen Brown's series so far against the Heat, and you're going to say, he's missed this in all 4 games. Why do you even like this play? First of all, the win percentage stuff, sometimes it matters, sometimes it doesn't. In this case, I don't really think it matters. In these 4 games, he scored 5, 6, 6, and 5 points. So it wasn't like he started slow. He's been very close to cashing this, just hasn't quite gotten over the hump. But, and this is a very, very big baby got back, but Kristaps Porzingis played in all 4 of those games. The reason why we are on Jaylen Brown tonight is because Kristaps Porzingis is going to be out for this game. And Jaylen Brown and Kristaps Porzingis, those are generally the 2 players in the Celtics that have the highest usage rate, specifically in the first quarter. And then if you look at last game, game 4, Derek White scored 16 points in the first quarter. Clearly an outlier performance for him. So you expect that even if Derek White has another good game, he's not going to score 16 points in the first quarter. And now Kristaps Porzingis is out, which means that the players stealing all the first quarter shots, that is going to be Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown played 19 games this season without Kristaps Porzingis. He went over 6.5 first quarter points just about 60% of the time, like 58% of the time. Did it in 11 of those 19 games, averaging 6.5 field goal attempts in the first quarter as well in those 19 games. That leads the Celtics in terms of first quarter attempts. It's kind of interesting because Brown always gets the higher usage rate in the first quarter, whereas Jason Tatum generally takes a step back in the first quarter. He takes a back seat is what I meant to say in the first quarter, doesn't shoot as much. And then it kind of evens out from there. So the guess here is that Brown is going to have another 7+ field goal attempts in the first quarter. As long as he just makes 3 in this game, with one of those 3 being a 3-pointer, we'll cash out this play. That's our third one. Next up, 4th and final pick of the video. Same game, Heat Celtics. I'm taking Nikola Jovic over 9.5 points, plus 102 odds at BetRivers. Now this one, I like fading recent results with my plays. This one, I will admit, this is going to take a little bit of a leap of faith, more so for playing time for Jovic than anything. Haka is out for the Heat. I'm expecting him to play more in like games 1 through 3. He played 26, 25, and 34 minutes. Jovic did. Game 4, he only played 16 minutes. Now, I don't really know what Spo is doing with his rotations. I thought Jovic played well in the limited minutes that he played in game 4. I thought he played well in games 1 through 3. But with Haka is out, and Jovic, despite the fact that he has played well, I have a hard time seeing him having only 16 minutes of playing time in this game as well. In games 1 through 3, where he did play 26, 25, and 34 minutes, he scored 10 points in each of those 3 games as well. 10 points in game 1, 11 points in game 2, 15 points in game 3. Then in game 4, Spo was trying things out with his rotations, whatever. Played him only 16 minutes, despite the fact that he played pretty well. But with Jaime Jaquez Jr. out, I just don't see him having any choice but to play Jovic. And I expect Jovic to play well, given the opportunity, when he's consistently done so, right? When he has been given the opportunity, he has played well, including the first 3 games of this series. If you look at the season and you look at it in games in which Jovic has played at least 20 minutes, which I think is a pretty low number, he scored 10 or more points about 55% of the time. He did in 14 of 26 games, so over 50% hit rate. And that's with only 20 minutes. If you look at certain sources, like RotoWire projects Jovic to play 32 minutes in this game. Now, I don't think he quite gets that high. I'd be pleasantly surprised if he got up to 32 minutes. But even if we split the difference, let's say, okay, how does it look when he plays at least 25 minutes as opposed to 20? He scored 10 points in 65% of the time in which he's played 25 minutes. And he's done that in each of the 3 games, this specific series as well, in which he's played 25 minutes. So the hope here is that he gets the playing time, that he plays well in the playing time. I think this is a good buy low spot for Jovic as our 4th and final pick. And that's how we got 4 bangers for you guys to lock in. Remember to like the video, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Remember to check out the Dub Club if you want everything sent to you for only $5 a month. And then remember that I will be out of town for the next 5 days. I will see you again on Monday. So let's hope heading into this time away, we can have a good day today. Appreciate everybody for watching, and have a good one.